I'm excited to introduce today Dr. Deb Butler. Prior to becoming a certified master weight loss and life coach, she was a board certified chiropractor, nutritionist, acupuncturist for 30 years. And Deb also hosts her own podcast, Thinner Peace and Menopause and Beyond. There's so many questions I have for you today. Welcome, Dr. Deb.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
When I read your bio from the get-go, I'm like, we need her. Please come speak your wisdom over our community. Everything from your own weight loss journey and getting off the diet culture
Yep.
train to how it led you into menopause talk. So I want it all. But let's start with your story and just give our community hope today that even if they feel like they've dieted forever, that there is this hope that it doesn't have to be, that we too can be released from diet culture.
Well, first of all, let me say this. There's never going to be a better time to release yourself from the diet culture than menopause, than this transformation. And in many ways, it will never get any easier. And I know a lot of people don't think that, and I see your face, but in many, many ways, this time of our lives is all about what do I want to do? What's next? And what do I really, really want? And now, because of this stage of life, we have a much better idea of what it is we do want. I think menopause and adolescence are kind of the same
I've heard
in
that.
in many ways. So my story is that I was a chiropractor for 30 years. I started my first diet at 12 years old when there was nothing wrong with my body. I got myself weighed with a bunch of other of my friends, and I weighed more. And from that point on, and with the family that I grew up with, I believed that there was something wrong with my body and that not eating would fix it, not eating too much. And that stayed with me, that type of mentality, until I was 50 years old in one way or another. And my first diet when I was 12 years old was I went to Weight Watchers and became a lifetime Weight Watcher member for all of those years. And a lifetime Weight Watcher member to me meant when I gained my weight back, because it was a cyclical thing, 20 to 30 pounds. I probably lost 20 to 30 pounds. I don't know how many times, probably lost about 250 pounds altogether doing it so many times. And I would go to Weight Watchers to lose my weight, count my points. As soon as my weight was off, the minute it was off, I felt free and that I could go and do whatever I want and eat whatever I want. And when I gained my weight back, I went back to Weight Watchers, and that was the cyclical thing. And I thought that was the way. I thought I had it. And when I hit my 50s and went back to Weight Watchers for I'm just going to say 100th time, it probably wasn't 100 times, I couldn't lose weight in the way that I was. All of a sudden, the weight was very, very slow. It was very frustrating. And at that point, I had just gotten into the idea of coaching, and I wasn't as happy being a chiropractor as I had been. And I was wondering, what's next? What do I want to do? What do I really want? And I ended up in coaching, and it's a long story, but to say it short is, as I learned about coaching and I learned about the brain and I learned about these neural pathways, and I met a coach who called herself a weight loss coach. I'd never heard that term before. In my own practice of being a chiropractor, I helped women all the time how to diet, how to exercise, what to eat, what not to eat, how to do it. I knew everything. I couldn't do what I said, but I knew how to tell other people what to do. And I think at this point, when that scale stopped moving, it was almost like this idea of, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do any of this stuff anymore. This very important time of life. I started missing periods. I went to my doctor, and lo and behold, welcome to menopause. And through the idea of coaching and this weight loss coach, she asked a very interesting question. And this question was, why do you eat when you're not hungry?
Hmm.
I thought, like, what? I mean, I never heard such a silly question in all my life. Just tell me what I have to do so that I can lose this weight and be done. What? It was the beginning of everything that I do now, my thinner peace process. That question made the beginning of it's not what do I eat, but why do I eat when I'm not hungry? And what is it like to eat when you're hungry and stop when you're full? I absolutely, as smart as I am and as smart as I was, I had no concept of that question. And
Yeah.
that was the beginning of where I am now and what we're going to talk about today. And I'm not a
No, and
chiropractor anymore either.
and you're not, and I love chiropractors, so that makes me
I
sad. I
love
was sure.
chiropractors too. I do too. I do too. But, after 30 something years, there was always something gnawing at me all the time. Like I liked working on people's bodies, but what I really liked is getting into people's heads. So I could never stay on time because I was so busy talking all the time. So now I get to talk and I get to listen. And it's like, yes, this is what I was meant to do. Thank you, menopause.
Oh, it's so true. And I have to say, even from like a
Yeah.
dietitian
Yes.
standpoint, I would so much rather talk the brain piece and where you're starting to go with this than
Yes.
like what's a calorie, what's a protein. It's
Yes.
good to know all of that, but this
Yes.
jazzes my soul when we can think about literally changing somebody's brain and their path in the future. So, and I love that you said that. You actually, you say if we think about changing for the last time, it has to be the brain piece, right?
Yeah.
And so that clicked for you in that moment that you're
Yeah.
like, that's what I'm not doing right. And I was going to say this earlier. I love that you pointed out I'm a smart lady. And I want to say that to our listeners today.
Yes.
We have
Please.
a very smart, intelligent group of listeners.
Yes.
And just because you haven't mastered this particular spot in your life does not mean that you're a failure. And I know we all know that, but I just want to say it again because we can be thriving in all areas of life. And this continues to be that point where we feel like failures. So, Mike's back over to you, but let's go into the brain piece. And I'm really curious why menopause connects so strongly with you for the brain piece. My community is very open to the whole emotional eating. What are you actually hungry for? So feel free to keep diving in there. But like, I don't think we've ever connected it to menopause specifically.
Well, I think in many ways, when we hit menopause, with some of the things that I've read, that our brains are actually more malleable than they've been. And and I think the desire gets very, very strong in menopause of the discontent, and the desire to like, what do I really, really want? And I think that when we're younger, we don't have any wisdom to back us up. We go more by what the culture and what our peers say, and we do things sometimes that's not really what we want. And I think when we get in the state of, I will call menopause a state of discomfort. There are some uncomfortable things going on during menopause, and I don't say it lightly. But I do say that a lot of the discomfort comes from the imbalance in the body and also the wisdom that we have that there's got to be something else, a knowing. And the discomfort of menopause and the body not functioning like you like it to makes you become much, much more aware of how do you want to take care of your body. And your body, I teach in my own community about becoming a body whisperer. And a body whisperer is when you can listen to the quietness of your body's desires and mind body, so that you can eat when you're starving. That's your body screaming. or you can eat when your body just gives the idea that it's time to eat, which is very, very different. It's more like a whisper. As a chiropractor, I taught maintenance care, which basically meant that you come to see me and get adjusted when your body is whispering discomfort, not when it's screaming. With that, I kind of equate the two things. The body, how hungry are you? Do you let it scream at you, or do you listen to those whispers? The same thing with being tired. Do you decide that it's time to lay your body down when your body's yelling and screaming, I can't do anything else? You don't make me. Or can you do it at the lightness of I think it's time to rest, the whisper? And these are all our involuntary sensations: hunger, tired, pain. We're not in control of those. Our body does what it does, and our mind responds to it. And teaching our brain to respond to our bodies in a wise way, I think menopause is the best time to do it because your body's screaming at you more than usual. And I don't tell people as much what to do in menopause, even though there are so many things that you can do in menopause, and I certainly can recommend. But what I want to do is to say, this is the time to connect to your body. This is the time to get into your head and know what your mind is talking about, and being able to observe what your mind is saying to you, what you're thinking, and being able to either change it or at least be aware that the thought is creating problems for me or it's helping me. I don't know if that makes sense. I think I rambled a little bit.
Oh, I literally had chills the whole time
Oh,
you're
good.
talking with the whisper and your connection with body. And I have a question for you with this because
Please.
I am viewing this spectrum of, we have individuals who are very prone already to hearing a whisper like that or being able to like sink
Yeah.
in and hear you and then like take that advice and run with it right now. And
Yes.
then we have this opposite end of the spectrum where somebody is so not there yet. They're kind of just, like maybe even a personality type where
Yes.
they just, my husband's kind of one of them. Like until his knee is
Yeah.
screaming at him
Yeah.
that you have to go get surgery, he's not going to listen to it. So, how do you coach clients through who exist on that whole spectrum of willing to listen and be aware of their body?
I would say, at least for my community and for my clients, they're ready for something. So there is the desire to know that what is happening for them isn't working. So that there is an openness to another way. And I think so many of my people and your people are so ready for me not to tell them what to eat.
Yeah.
And at the same time, they really want me to tell them what to eat, because in some ways it's so much easier to say, eat this and don't eat that. And then you don't have to pay attention to the whole emotional side. But what I would say is that what I do is I give a number scale to everything. So, for instance, if I'm talking to somebody and they're like your husband, I would just say, so if tell me like what the pain level is in your knee when you decide that it's time to do something, from a 0 to a -10, -10 being the most amount of pain and 0 being nothing. And so maybe your husband would say, well, about a -8, a -9. And what I would do from there is, after developing some kind of a way of speaking numbers, is
Mhm.
that what you could do is, what would it be like if you did it when the number was less, when it wasn't screaming at you? So, I wouldn't say, okay, well, let's just go to -2s, just that whisper. But what if you just paid attention to it before it was what is an 8, like a 6, like a little bit less, not a lot, but a little bit, so that you could recognize the difference, because that's the mind body connection, is that you let your brain in on what's happening with your body, as opposed to, oh my God, my body says this. I like I have no thought process. There's always a thought process that's going on if you're aware of it. So just doing it slowly in baby steps, turtle steps, bringing it down a little bit and recognizing it. When I was teaching chiropractic patients, there was just some people that just wanted to come in at a -8, and that's just the way it was. But sometimes they learned, I go, why don't we just try a little bit, like when you're at a different number, a little bit less, come in and see if it keeps you from coming in less after that. So maybe that there is a bonus to paying attention to the whispers.
Right. And I feel like I need to point this out because this is for all of us.
Yeah.
There's a money connection. And I think it's hard for individuals to pay for something until they're at that -8 or -10, where our job, you and I,
Mhm.
is to help people know that it's preventative. And to your point, you'd probably be paying less that you come in earlier. It's a educational component of it. And this is where I love podcasting, is to kind of
Yeah.
speak it out
Yeah.
and let people continue hearing that. But it's difficult. I call myself an accountability coach, although I'm a
Yes.
dietitian personal trainer. And
Yes.
I find that people struggle, like it's one of the things, even as I'm working with a client, they'll be like, I can't believe I'm paying to have you show up to come walk with me and I'm like, is it the difference of you doing it or not doing it? Yes. Then
Mhm.
it's worth it. Then you're looking back and going, I'm so glad I did that walk. I'm so glad I fixed that meal. It's the game changer, but we're shifting mindsets. And I think that that's a difficult spot to be in. Let's hear some success stories of where you've guided some of your clients and what you hear them say on this other side of it.
Well, one of the things that they say, and one of the things that I have said, that it's not about the food. And yet, everything that I do involves food. So I use eating as a way of getting into people's heads. And so we do food journaling, but we don't do food journaling because I almost don't even care what they're eating. You just write it down. But what I care about is, once again, we talk about numbers a lot because I think our brains understand numbers if we have not been really connected, as opposed to how strong or how weak something is. I think that what I would say is that if you have a number scale and you're writing down what you're eating, and then you're giving it to me, it sounds like it's accountability. And in the way it is, but more important, it's let me help you see why you're putting that into your mouth through these numbers. So that
Mhm.
there is an emotional hunger scale and there's a physical hunger scale. And the first thing that I always teach my clients is, can you eat when you're hungry and stop when you're full? And I use a hunger scale from a -10 to a +10. So +10 is stuffed, -10 is starving. And we talk about eating between the twos, starting at a -2. And there's a whole lot of just what that feels like in your body, because at least my clients who were like me is I didn't even know what was going on in my body. I did not know. I ate because I had so many points due to the Weight Watcher system. And I would save all those points for later in the day. And I didn't care if how hungry I was or how full I was. It was how much could I get? How much bang could I get for these points? And when we talk about that, I realized that I was probably waiting to eat at a -7 or a -8, and then filling myself up to probably like a +7. I was just putting it all in at once. And I just thought that was fantastic because I got to eat it all. That was my thing, is how can I get a lot of food? I really thought, and I think a lot of my clients think that it's like, I just want to be able to eat whatever I want. I want to be like those thin people who can eat whatever they want. And here's the thing, that you can actually train your mind to believe that you can eat whatever you want, because really it's just a thought. So I
Hmm.
used to believe I could only eat whatever I wanted after I lost my weight, and then I could just go off the rails and eat whatever I wanted until I gained the weight. But what I teach my clients is that what if you believed you could eat whatever you want right now? And you really wouldn't be eating bonbons and potato chips all day long when you have that thought. I think most people believe they can't eat whatever they want, which spurs them on to overeating because it creates restriction and deprivation. And restriction and deprivation is what creates overeating. And that's just a feeling. That feeling doesn't come from the food that you're eating, be it chicken and broccoli or potato chips and a hamburger. It comes from what you think about what you're eating and the feeling that it creates. If you create a feeling of deprivation or restriction, my guess is that in your action line you will be overeating. When you believe you can eat whatever you want, but you think about, well, what do I really want? Most people really don't want. Now, in my head, back 30 years ago, I believed that's all I would eat
Mhm.
if I could be thin. If I could stay thin and eat potato chips and chocolate chip cookies all the time, I would. But really, the question is, would you really? It's like you start questioning these things. Oh, she can eat whatever she wants. Well, so can you. It's just,
Mm.
what do you want? How much do you want to eat? How full do you want to be? And then the emotional component comes into, well, if you're not eating when you're hungry, what's going on in your head? And that's the emotional hunger scale. And that goes from a -10 to a +10 too, -10 being totally depressed or angry, as strong as it can be, to a +10, which is joyful and happy. And also in that realm is the idea of urges, which is also emotional hunger, and how strong urges can be in teaching people how to handle these urges and the strengths of these urges. And I think what most of my clients would say after going through all of this is that what they learn is they learn more about what's been going on in their head the whole time. And that's why I think they say it's really not about the food, even though they're eating and writing all the time, and I'm coaching them all the time.
Mm.
It's really not about the food. It's about your head, what you think, the feelings that you create with the things that you think about what you're eating. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, and so beautifully stated. And it also brings us back to anybody who has not been willing to take the deep dive into the mental side of this, that
Mhm.
just to reiterate, we bang down that fitness door or the nutrition, tell me what to eat,
Yes.
tell me the food, and we leave off that other piece. And we can, prior to menopause, to your point, a lot of people see results, with nutrition, with fitness. And then when we don't anymore, then we have to seek that extra side of, okay, well, if this isn't working, what's going to help?
Mhm.
And I see a lot of people try to out exercise their eating habits, and that probably
Yes.
has worked really well for them, for a long time. I feel like other things that my clients, I was just trying to think through
Yes.
examples, have said would be like, I used to take out alcohol for, 10 days and I
Yes.
dropped 5 to 10 pounds,
Yes.
and you hit menopause and it doesn't work anymore.
Yes. And that is the beauty. What doesn't work anymore should never have worked,
Hmm. So good. Yeah.
because most of the tricks that we have used over the years were not good for your body. It was a weight loss trick.
Mm.
And I think the wisdom of our bodies is our bodies are saying, Dust, you can't do that to me anymore. I refuse to let you do that to me anymore. And if you want to age in a way, in the best way that you can, then you want to treat your body with respect. And there is no better time to do that. Your body will never ask you more of it than right now during menopause is pay attention to me and don't do that to me. I think those, and we get mad. What do you mean we can't do that to you anymore? I've always been able to do that to you. It is a gift. Menopause is a gift if you look at it in the right perception. It's how can I take better care of my body for this next half of my life? Your body says you have to. That's basically what it says. It says, well, you either have to or you're going to be miserable.
Right. Okay. So we're gonna sound like a broken record, but we're almost gonna summarize this all again because
Okay.
I had a listener well, she did. She stated this exact what we're talking about. She
Mhm.
had written and said, I never felt like I was doing weight loss well before. And then you throw menopause on the mix, and now I feel like I'm lost in this world
Yeah.
of like everything was hard and now it's even harder.
Yeah.
But you would be saying that
Mhm.
now the real work begins, or like the gift of it is you'll find the way that will benefit your body the most.
You have an
Mhm.
opportunity to do that, or you can stay the same.
Yes, I was like, if you got that email, your response would look like what?
I think what I would say is this is an invitation to you if you want to get to know your body better. See, I think most people don't want to be connected to their body. I think most people want to lose weight. I think that's all most people want is they want to lose weight at any cost. I talk a lot with my clients when we talk about a compelling reason. And what is not a compelling reason is to be healthy. And when I say that, and maybe you'll agree with me or not, do most people tell you that's why they want to do it? To be healthy,
I would say
healthier?
healthier, but it's one of those ask why till you cry. I want to lose weight to be healthy. And then you ask the next question and the next question,
There you
and you
go.
dig down to the
I love that. I love that because it's not motivating, or else these people would not be calling us because they already think it and want it and believe it, and they can't deal with their own emotional hunger and think that there's something wrong with them and think that there's something wrong with the food that they're eating when it's just their brain needs to be retrained. And menopause is a great time to retrain your brain. It really is. And it is an opportunity and it can be exciting. And I think that's really important, not just for your body. Like, that's why when people say, well, it's not really about the food and it changed my life changing, it's life changing because I give you a different way of looking at the next half of your life. We just use food and your desire to lose weight as the way to get into it. And weight loss isn't going to make you happier. The only thing weight loss will do for sure is your clothes will get smaller. But I think basically overall, if you don't change your head space and the way that you see your body and the way that you see your life, then nothing changes. And what a lot of people will say to me is, they just want to get the weight off. They just want to lose the weight. And I think really what they want is they really just want to believe that they can trust themselves and trust their bodies. I think many people that I work with, and maybe you'll say the same thing, have never trusted their bodies. They have never trusted themselves. And then they don't know what's going on in menopause. Part of it is a trust issue with themselves. It just brings it up.
Absolutely. Right. Especially like you're saying, for anyone who's jumped on that first diet as a teenager or been told.
Yeah.
I could have cried as you were telling me the
It's
weigh-in
so sad.
story of that happens. And like I got a letter home from school, from my daughter's school one time that said, just FYI, we're going to be taking body measurements, weighing the kids, and then their results will come home in their book bag. And I was like, oh no, it won't. Like,
Wow.
immediately on the phone with the nurse. I'm sure she thought I was crazy, but I'm like,
Um,
this, and you just nailed down the exact like example that it only takes a moment for somebody to go, what's wrong with me? Why is my weight different? Why is my, and if they don't have somebody immediately pouring
totally.
information and love and honesty and all of that right back over them, then
Yeah.
it continues on, right? Then it gets stuffed
Oh,
down and it's a belief system. And unless it's uncovered, I don't know. That's just, it's like scary to me that
it should be.
it's,
It
yeah,
is.
it should be. Yes, that we need to take it that seriously.
Yeah.
Again, you're a hope story because you've lived through this and you've
I
seen
have.
yourself on the side. And I just feel like, can you just go back over it, tell our listeners one more time. So, I mean, you were exposed to the idea that it needs to be a belief system that's changing, it's the brain piece, and then settling into that brain piece, like years or just the one, like what shifted at that moment once that light bulb went on that you changed?
I really think the moment that changed everything for me was the question, why do you eat when you're not hungry? As opposed to here's what you need to eat in order to lose weight.
Hmm.
It, I was always looking for that thing. And I guess because I was getting into coaching and I was getting into the mental aspect of it, that seems for everybody to ask themselves that one question is, do you know why you eat when you're not hungry? And do you know when you're hungry? Do you know when you're full? I can't say enough about that because most of my clients and most of the people who are attracted to me because of those questions. And then when they go and tell somebody else, like they'll be out with some friends and their friends notice that they're not eating all the food on their plate. Oh, what I see you're losing. What diet are you on?
Yeah.
And they'll go, I'm just not hungry anymore. Well, what diet is that? That's the culture.
Yeah.
If I'm with somebody and I'm eating what I would call a joy food, a non nutritious food that tastes good, and I'm eating it and I don't eat the whole thing. My mom, for example, will say to me, wow, you have such willpower. Like I'm intentionally doing something. When
Mhm.
really what I teach and what I do is I just don't enjoy it anymore and I'm through. It was really good and I'm done. I don't need it all. No discipline, no willpower, no nothing. I'm done. And I can have it
Yeah.
again. No discipline,
Right.
no willpower, no diet, no specific diet. Oh, well, why aren't you eating anymore? Oh, I'm not hungry. Do you think that menopause would be a good time to learn that?
Such a good time. Yes.
If you've
Yes.
never learned it in your whole life, wouldn't it be great to do it now?
So let me ask you this for
Yeah.
every listener. I would like more Dr. Deb. What or how to get connected to you and like what you provide and offer? Because I think some people are familiar with programs and other people are going, is that walk through your doors or is that virtual? Give us a little lowdown of what it would look like to be at your client.
Well, I offer individual coaching all year round, and I do group coaching. We open the doors a few times a year. Also, I have a podcast, Thinner Peace and Menopause and Beyond, which is really a wonderful. I mean, if this isn't enough for you, just listening to me with you right now, sometimes just like your podcast, listening to some of the things that I talk about, like learning some of the procedures, the techniques, the mindsets that I use. You can listen to Thinner Peace and Menopause and Beyond. And there's a companion book that goes with it. If you're interested in actually speaking with me, you can have what I call a mini session, which is just a way of talking to me, finding out about the program that I offer, and if you would be a good fit for it. And you can go to that by going to drdebbutler.com/work with me. And the group programs, when they open, then all the information is up, and there's a lot of information about that when it opens. And meanwhile, I'm just constantly giving out as much content as I can about menopause is a very good time to get your act together. It's a very, very good time to get your act together. And now I think you know what your act is. And if you know what it is, or you have a sense in your heart about what it could be, I'm amazed at the people who change professions, clients that change so many things in their life by figuring out why they eat when they're not hungry.
Hmm.
And it's I think it's really because of the wisdom that they have of all the years of everything that's happened. I never believed that if you've been like me, I was on diets for years. I really realized in my own perception that I hadn't failed on those diets. It's just that I was being information, fed information that was not correct, which
Mhm.
is I know what you need to eat. And the truth is nobody knows what I need to eat but me. And we can educate ourselves. And most of my clients, just like yours, they're pretty brilliant. I think they already know what to eat. Just why aren't they eating it? Why aren't they doing it? Would be a better question. As opposed to let's just spend a long time telling you what to eat. Let's just waste all the time in telling you what to eat when really the reason you're not eating what you already know what to eat is because you got stuff in your brain that needs to come out and needs to be reconditioned and retrained. And menopause is the time.
That's so good. I will put all of your links in our show notes.
Perfect.
And we're going to continue to pull deprivation and diet culture out of our
Yeah,
listeners' heads. Yes, together, we're going to keep fighting the
love it.
good fight.
Love it.
Yes, if you have one last thing, you've already spilled so much beautiful wisdom, but one last thing that you just hope and pray if somebody didn't take anything else away today, they took this piece away. What is your last parting comment?
The best is yet to come.
Mm, that's so good. And it is.
And
Oh,
it
thank
is.
you.
Thank
Yes.
you.
I really appreciate you coming on today. Hopefully, we'll snag you again in the future.